What was the question?
But he actually speaks for people who want to continue in that same field.
Hate this word scope. It has been thrown around since my childhood. There's a difference between advice and validation.
We understood how we can go and network and how we can go and take advices from seniors. When should you stop and start exploring your own thing?
It's your course. It's not the faculty's course. At the end of every project in your portfolio, you don't write how many marks you got. Process creates the output.
Correct.
So a person who is aspiring to be a designer and choosing a field should look at the process that goes behind that output. So there's a difference between liking something and being really good at it. By liking, you become an enthusiast. By being really good at it, you become an expert. So they're very different things, right?
Hi, Atharva, how are you? Are you excited?
Yep. This is my first time doing something like this. I'm a nervous also. But yeah, excited for the most part.
What was your idea when I came to you with the proposal of calling you and hosting you on one of the episodes?
I was hesitant at first because I've not really had a lot of professional experience as compared to maybe some of the guys that you've had on the podcast. So that's why my hesitancy. But then you only convinced me, and I think you can, rather talking about your plans ahead, you could reflect back on maybe your experience in college. So yeah, I hope this helps out some of my juniors. Hi guys, this is Atharva. I'm an industrial designer. I just passed out from college. I just finished my graduation project, and I was in Bangalore, and Anusha hit me up saying, let's do a podcast together. So that's why I'm here.
So what was your journey, since we are getting into the topic of how you navigated your way through design and your career in design? What was something that made you decide that design is my thing?
Okay. So during my school years, I was good at artistic drawing. But in my 9th and 10th standard, I had this subject called technical drawing. Okay. You have it in ICSE. And I really liked it. I loved it and I was very good at it. Okay. But after my 10th standard, I really lost touch with it. I was good at maths and physics also. So Papa ne bola ki engineering at that. So, and I was up for it. Okay. It was my choice to do engineering. So I started preparing for JEE. And around my 12th standard, I ended up realizing that I like maths and physics. But there are more people good at that than me. Many more people good at that than me. So there's a difference between liking something and being really good at it. By liking, you become an enthusiast. By being really good at it, you become an expert. So they're very different things, right? So I thought to myself, yaar, engineering nahi to fir aur kya, right? So artistic drawing, technical drawing, maths and physics. In तीनों का combination, I came across industrial design. Okay. And I started preparing for my industrial design exams and stuff like that in the last 3 months of my 12th standard. And I gave UCID and I DCAT at MIT. And then I did get into MIT. Yep, that was my design selection ka journey from engineering to design. But I chose industrial design because of my interests in engineering so that I could, have the technical part and also explore the artistic side of design. Yeah.
So when you were deciding onto your discipline as such, did you have any sort of confusion or, because most of the people, they choose industrial design because they know that it's a field where you can explore a lot and you can get into a lot of, niches in product itself. So were you in product because of that, or were you in product or industrial per se because of some other reason?
Okay, let me put it this way. When I've seen my juniors come into college with the idea of what they want to do, okay? Now, whenever somebody comes into design college, they get inspired by the final outputs of a design department. Let's say they'll see beautiful posters, beautiful car models, they'll see amazing renders, and then they'll get inspired by that, and they'll be like, "Mujhe ye karna hai, and this is my thing. I will do this." Okay, but I think rather than that, it is good to be inspired by the final output, but process creates the output.
Correct.
So a person who is aspiring to be a designer and choosing a field should look at the process that goes behind that output. Go to your seniors, talk to them about कि आप क्या करते हो, कैसे करते हो. Maybe ask for tasks from them, small tasks that could be a part of the entire design process, and see if you like the process. Because for the next 3 years, you're gonna have to do the process, and output बीच में आएगा, right? If you're not interested in the process, the output won't be good,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
There are very good designers in each and every field. That's why output is always amazing only, and it's inspirational only.
Yeah.
So talking about myself, I was confused between UX and industrial design when I was picking my field. But I'll be honest, the thing that I decided on industrial design because of that was I could not sit in front of a laptop for 4-5 hours straight. But I could maybe sand a model for 4-5 hours straight. I could sketch for 4-5 hours straight. So it was, again, committing to the process of industrial design. Not saying that just modeling and sketching mein acha hona means that you're a good designer, industrial designer. But yeah, that was something that I took into consideration.
Now, firstly, you mentioned that, when the juniors came in college, you sort of saw that, how to navigate stuff and how do they come to you and ask for help and everything. When you were a junior yourself, how did you navigate which senior to talk to or which senior to ask advice from? Because majorly I've seen what happens to me personally is if I go to a senior, for example, and I don't know anything about them for sure, what happens is they would advise me something because I'm asking, obviously, and then my experiences would be influenced by their advice. And now if I go to some other senior, I'll go with an advice. I'll go with a question that's a little influenced by the advice that the person has given. So how did you navigate that, or any advice for juniors on that matter?
So I'll say that seniors play a very important role in design because you learn as much from your seniors as you do from books, from YouTube videos, from your teachers. And it's very important to have good company that inspires you as designer, that inspires you to work hard, who are not yes men, ki haan, bahut acha. They can critique you also. They can give you those they can challenge you regularly. So as for the part where you asked me about choosing seniors, who to listen to, who to not to listen to, essentially. Rather than going upfront and asking for advice from a senior, go and talk to them. Just maybe sit in their room, ask them ki aap kaise karte ho, kya karte ho. Learn their workflow, learn their work process, learn their thought process, right? Now, if you vibe with that, if you feel that this is going to push me forward as a designer, this is going to challenge me again and again, and also you should see them as a friend also. So if all these things fit together, I think that's the senior to go with. But apart from that, it's nothing. It's not like choosing a prom date. It's not. It should not be that difficult, and it should be very organic, to put it that.
But most of the times it happens now that you don't even know how it feels to have an organic senior connection. You think that this is, like, for example, you meet someone who is advising you on something just for the sake of it or whatever, and you think that, oh, ऐसा ही होता है, ऐसे ही बात करते होंगे लोग. But then later stages पे you meet someone who is actually invested in your growth, who wants to, like, who will be proud when they see you excel. So,
yeah, I get your point. Trying to say, but then getting to know people, getting to understand what they are, how they think, is the only way you can really, differentiate between who to follow and who not to follow. I completely get your point. I have personally, a lot of times I've seen people in senior positions. It can be your seniors, teachers, any industry experts, they'll give out feedback just for the sake of feedback. And they'll say something just because they're up there and you're down there, right? So critique के लिए critique नहीं करना चाहिए. So, and you eventually learn to, sort that, differentiate between them. And, people who don't generally do that are the people you learn the most from. Because if they do critique you, it's a genuine critique. It's not, again, for the sake of critiquing.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. That's my answer.
So now, since you're talking about critique, there's also this point in my head. When we take up projects, right? We take up with an understanding as we learn from them, but also we want to make sure that they are enhancing our portfolio in some or the other manner. We, like, in the process of learning, we also want to come up with an output that can enhance a different idea or different spectrum of what you are as a person. So what do you think should be in your mind when you're making a decision, or this is a project that I should take? Like, what skills or what topics should that project define?
Okay. Interesting question. So I speak for industrial design. We are in every project we are supposed to choose a topic always. The first few days are given to us to just choose the topic, but I think those first few days are not very well utilized. I have also done. I am guilty of this. But you're freshly out of a very hectic course maybe, or something that you put a lot of effort in, and now you want to take a break. So in the first few days of that course, वो ऐसे ही चला जाता, and then the deadline comes to submit a topic, and then you just, for the sake of submitting, you submit something, and then you have to stick with that for the rest of the course. And multiple times it has happened with me that I chose a topic that I didn't really, enjoy working with. And when that happens, you can't really do justice to the topic or the course, right? Now, talking about how to choose the topic, I would say look at every single possibility out there and try and make it interesting for yourself. If you know something, how it is to be done, maybe explore some other avenues of industrial design in that particular course. You don't always have to, stick to what your teachers are telling you to do, right? Now, I'll give you an example. We were given this, our teachers used to give us these lists of products that we could take up for a course. So let's say CMF, color material finish, or product semantics or something like that. But I used to look beyond that list. That list used to be my last option. कि अगर कुछ और नहीं मिला तो इसके साथ जाएंगे, right? Because those were safe projects to do. And many times I have fought with my teachers. I have stood up for myself कि नहीं, मुझे यही करना है. And at the end of the day, it's your project, dude. क्या होगा, मतलब 10 mark कम मिल जाएंगे. It's okay. It's going to go into your portfolio. At the end of every project in your portfolio, you don't write how many marks you got. It's the work that speaks, right? So again, choose topics that interest you and that push you forward as a designer in every single course. May it be a 9-week course or a 2-week course, every single one. Ulta, in smaller courses, you can take many more liberties.
A question that arises from that statement is that right now you said that take time and understanding what topic you would like to work on, but not really calling anyone out. But in the college, I think the course structure is in this manner that I've seen my friends who are doing industrial, they're having such a hard time in timelining all these things together. Because they choose a topic, they go to that particular mentor to show that topic. That person is rejecting it for like 2 weeks, and the course is for 3 weeks. How would they work out that? And like, how can they sort of streamline the time as well as the topic choice in a manner?
I've been there and done that. I completely relate. So again, it comes down to, it's your course. It's not the faculty's course. And yeah, I've seen, now I'll digress a bit, but yeah, I've seen my friends go to the particular mentor or the teacher far too many times. Like if it's a 2-week course, you don't have to go to him or her 8 times, right? Then it becomes the faculty's project. Then they dictate what the design becomes, not you. And see, they have their own design perceptions, their own opinions about design. And design college is all about you figuring out your perceptions, your opinions about design, right? Now, as we talked in the senior wala question, you do get influenced by their views, their opinions. But then it is also up to you, ki how much do you go to them, how much do you get influenced by it. So, in industrial design, you will have a lot of courses overlapping. I think that is industrial design in that case is far worse than any other discipline that I've seen.
Totally agree.
You have 3 courses going on, 4 courses going on simultaneously, and you have to work in different groups. You have to coordinate with different people. But that's just the way the department works. You can't really do about anything about it. But talking about setting apart time for each, sometimes you will have to prioritize something over the other. You'll have to question yourself, ki, whatever work I've done in this particular course, how is this going? And can I maybe take some time out of that, maybe put that focus more on a different course that is going on parallelly, so that I have control over this. I don't really have control over that. Time has elapsed. Maybe you chose a different or a difficult topic that you don't really relate with anymore. Then you do have to prioritize.
And since you mentioned about how, you don't have to go to the faculty at all times, at every second. Is it also the same for seniors? Now what happens, I've seen a few people in my college itself, for every other decision that they're taking in their project, they will always consult a senior. So then it becomes like, okay, are you just going on the footsteps of what the seniors did, like match to match, or are you just, sort of getting advice from them or exploring it? Like, we understood how we can go and network and how we can go and take advices from seniors. When should you stop and start exploring your own thing?
So, it's not, my answer will stay the same, exactly. That if you build your own design language, your own design perceptions, don't always go to other people that might be your senior, your mentor, or any other industry expert that you're in contact with for that particular course. You do your own thing first. And when you need real, genuine advice, now there's a difference between advice and validation. If you require validation at all times, I think you should work on that. If you require advice, genuine advice, then for sure, go ahead. You can ask a particular doubt to maybe an expert or your mentor multiple times. But if you're going there for validation, कि मेरा project बराबर हो रहा है या नहीं, या फिर what do they think about the project? How many marks will I get for that project? That's not the way you approach design.
Got it. And since we were discussing a little about, projects and, how to get done with work and everything on timely basis. So right now there's one incident that happened. Right now all the people in my batch are specifically doing their internships, industrial design internships. And we all know that internships are pretty hectic. But abhi they have gotten a call from college that they have to make groups and start the research work. And they have asked them to take out 3 hours every day to work on it. So how do you manage such calls? Like, do you revolt against it? Do you rebel ki bro, abhi ye nahi kar sakte? Like, and then you're asking us, they've also given this sort of guideline that you can't, you have to do some manufacturing internship. You just can't go around and just, sit in an office and say that, oh, ye product ka internship main kar rahi hu. So how you have expectations from us in terms of internship, you have time duration also in terms of internship, then you also want us to take out time from that time duration for your work. How do you manage all that?
See, I think you have to be smart sometimes. Now, as you said, some guidelines were given to juniors this time that they can only do internships in particular sectors. So if let's say I want to do an internship in a sector that does not fall into that list, I'll try to pull in a contact that is in that particular sector, and maybe have a pseudo document ready that will allow me to show that हाँ ठीक है ये काम किया. But that does not mean I'll sit at home and do nothing. You should be smart in terms of how you grow as a designer, not become lazy as a designer, right? So talked about, should you revolt against these things or not? I think it is very, very important that students they should not always succumb to these orders from teachers or management of the institute. You are now 20-year-old, 21-year-old. Then you should be able to, have a cordial conversation with your mentor or your faculty that, sir, this is not working out. If I do this, my internship will be compromised. And I'll not be able to do justice to the work that you've given me also.
Correct.
Right? If I'm doing a 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 somewhere, after that, how can college expect me to pull out 3 hours from my schedule? That's not really done, right? So yeah, it is important to have conversations with your teachers. Many a times I've seen my friends becoming really, कि हाँ सर ने बोल दिया तो यही होगा. Oh, go talk to sir कि sir नहीं हो रहा है. Sir is not a robot, right? He can also understand. And they do understand that, there are some circumstances that don't allow you to work. Now, if I'm a faculty and it's my course, I would want the final output of that course to be really nice, right? Now, if the child is telling me, if the student telling me कि sir नहीं हो पा रहा है, तो for sure I'll consider that. It's not like कि नहीं मैंने बोल दिया तो बोल दिया. Okay? So yeah.
We're basically just be unified in this whole discussion of, can we do it, can we not do it? And now, since we discussed a little bit on internships, can you throw a little light on the internship that you did right now? Because, we discussed how that is more into a domain that not many people had already worked in. So I would really want you to discuss about it.
Yeah, sure. So I did my internship at Tata, in which Tata has this domain Tata has this, what do I call it, subsidiary. There's a program by Tata, it's called Digital Impact Square, DISC. What they do is they incubate startups, and they'll pair these startups with different designers and different management people, and these people have to help the startup out in a 100-day boot camp. And after that boot camp, the startup has to pitch to Tata. If Tata likes it, they will incubate the startup for I think 18 months. So I worked for my graduation project internship. I worked at Tata. Tata has a program called Digital Impact Square, which is this. They essentially incubate startups and pair designers with it. So I worked in the domain of agri-tech. And my startup was based out of Jammu Kashmir. And they worked in pruning of apple orchards. Now, I soon realized that agri-tech as a domain does not really have a lot of intervention from the design perspective. It's a very engineering heavy domain, very research heavy domain. But I think it is perfectly suited for design because it requires a lot of empathy. Now, you need to talk to a lot of different people. Now, I talk to farmers, horticulture experts, government department officers, my own disc mentors, my own team. So all these you have to manage, and they have very varied perspectives. Let's say if you're designing a hairdresser, you have to talk to maybe the particular age group that you've chosen and the particular gender that you've chosen, right? And they'll have more or less the same opinions, right? When you're designing something so unique, that is to cater to a very niche audience, you come across a lot of variety of opinions, right? So I went to Himachal. I stayed with the farmers. I studied how they interact in general with the products that they use, the practices, the farm practices that they follow. And I think that gave me the insights into how to come up with a solution for them. So in college, in projects, you generally don't do a lot of field research. The most that I've seen, that I have only done, is maybe a couple days worth of field research that me and my team would go out, talk to a few people, and then come back by evening. But here I spent a good 3 weeks in Himachal. And the inputs that I got from there were invaluable. And it has been, I like to work in different domains, right? From time to time. I have worked in consumer tech products in my college projects, some appliances in my college projects. In my summer internship, I did it in a ceramic studio. And for my graduation project, I did it in agri-tech. So this, as these different domains, help you grow as a designer also. So as I said, my graduation project was a very research-heavy project in which I got only maybe 25% of the entire time for ideation, conceptualization, the final concept, the final product itself. The rest was research, validating the problem statement, stuff like that. So you learn from every single experience, and it's very important to go into these fields also, because generally in college nobody takes this up, because nobody has access to these topics. Let's say I did take up apple pruning in my college project. How would I have gone to Himachal, right? It would not have been possible. So yes, I think working in different domains helps you grow as a designer.
So you mentioned how half of it was more research based, more than half of it was research based, and you didn't get enough time to actually, sort of apply all that research in full product form, right? So as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, that in a graduation project you have to show a full product cycle, right? So how do you balance that?
So I was fortunate enough, first of all, to be able to present my graduation project, to present my internship as my graduation project. Not a lot of people are. They have to do their graduation project separately because of varied reasons, because of NDAs, because the product development cycle is so long that, as you mentioned, you have to show the entire process. And the time span in which they are at that company doesn't really justify a graduation-worthy project, something like that. But yeah, so how I managed it was I always had a backup plan in mind. So in the first few weeks, I realized that this is going to be a very research heavy project, because the problem statement itself needed to be validated a lot, because when you're designing actual products, not college projects, when you're designing actual products, they need to work.
Correct.
Right? In college, you don't really have an obligation to make these products work. Right? So at the end of the prototyping phase, you cannot realize ki, oh shit, ye karna chahiye tha pehle. So that's why it took a lot of time in research. So I always had a backup plan in mind. Ki if this does not go to plan, or if I have to, make a different project for my GPA, I was always ready with a topic, with a properly, with a brief that was approved by my mentor. This also colleges started doing recently, that they'll ask you for 3 briefs before your graduation project starts. So that you will always have at least 3 options that you can go with as a self-initiated project, other than your internship, if it does not work out. So it's pre-approved. Then you don't have to again go to and fro with your mentor for weeks together. Is this project graduation worthy or not? So that is one good thing that is recently started in college. So yeah, I always had a backup, but fortunately it did not come to that. That's, I think, how I'll navigate.
Any advice for the juniors who are about to go and do their graduation project on how to keep, not a balance, but how to be careful with the idea that this might happen to them as well?
Yeah. So first of all, I like to mention that graduation project, when you're in college, the internship that you get is a huge thing in college, because there's a lot of peer pressure, there's a lot of maybe sometimes family pressure also, because now you're graduating, right? Trust me, it's not a big deal. Okay, I've seen people get into big ass companies. Am I allowed to say ass? I've seen people get into huge corporates and still not be able to do as good of a work that people have done in small startups or small companies, right? Because see, corporates, you will have lesser responsibility and you will work on finer things. You are a small cog in the machine. But in small teams, you will be the design guy, or maybe you will work with two other designers, in which you are actually deciding what is to be designed. You are the one who gives the approval, right? That is very empowering, but also it comes with responsibilities as well. You have to stand up for your concept. If it does not go to plan, you have to answer, not your boss, because there is no boss, right? So piece of advice, you can call it that, would be to not really compare which company that you get into, or which brand name that comes on your resume, because frankly, fortunately or unfortunately for some people, we are in a field that does not really depend on resumes. Your work talks for you, right? So when you hear a lot, when you hear कि अरे ये इसका इधर हो गया, इसका उधर हो गया, थोड़ा सा आता ही है दिमाग में कि यार मेरा क्यों नहीं हो, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times myself, I'm guilty of that. You will start questioning कि इसका पाम में इतना क्या है, इसके what is there, what is there in their portfolio that I don't have. It's not supposed to be a time where you question yourself. It's supposed to be a time where you apply yourself, right? You have done the hard work. Now you make a portfolio out of it and then apply. It is extremely important to understand that a company will hire you based on their needs. They don't have an obligation to hire you based on your good work. If they need a guy who is good at 3D modeling, they'll hire a guy who is good at 3D modeling, no matter how good portfolios they get in terms of ideation or maybe the research that you have done, right? So it depends highly on what the company requires at that time, and they'll hire accordingly. So the bottom line being, do not question yourself when you don't get hired or don't get a graduation project in a big company.
Okay. And while you were also mentioning this, that people should be not take internships so seriously. We discussed a lot about how you should not take a discipline so seriously and so rigidly that abhi I am a product industrial designer, then I am an industrial designer. You can go and transition wherever you want. This is something that I've discussed in my previous podcast. But this was something. But contrary to it, we were having a discussion before the podcast happened where you said that nobody actually speaks to people who want to continue in that same field, who want to be serious about that same field. So any advice on that or any thought on that?
Yeah. So you'll find a lot of advice, or you'll find a lot of seminars, workshops being arranged for people that want to shift away from industrial design, mostly to UX.
Yeah.
But as we were talking, there's not a lot of awareness or content out there for people who want to stay in industrial design. Like I always considered myself as a hardcore industrial designer. Although I did enjoy dabbling into other fields from time to time. My roommate was an animator. A lot of my good friends were not from industrial design. Right? I used to talk to them about other fields as well. I used to learn from them. Right? But talking about staying in an industrial design, for me it was, I could become a good UX designer, but I think I can do justice to industrial design as a field far more than I can do it for UX. Right. Now, I understand that some students have financial liabilities, and that's why they do switch over to UX to meet those expectations. But trust me, those people are far and few, right? If you can afford design education, especially in private colleges, you mostly come from economically well-to-do backgrounds, if not extremely well-to-do backgrounds. Yeah. So, this argument of UX में jobs ज़्यादा है, let's not talk about UX only, but इस particular field में job ज़्यादा है, या फिर इस field में scope ज़्यादा है. I hate this word scope. It has been thrown around since my childhood by my neighbors, relatives, parents also sometimes. That I feel scope हर एक discipline में है, हर एक industry में है, as long as you fall in that cream de la cream of एकदम people who are extremely good at it. Now, do you think people are not earning in the petroleum industry? Fossil fuels are dead, okay, but you will see corporate employees only being high up in the ranks. They earn crores, right, in their salaries. So you have to be really good at what you do. Then this scope wala thing goes away. It vanishes. And that's the freedom it provides you. Do your work, put your head down, and produce really excellent work, right? Then you don't have to worry about कि इधर पैसा मिलेगा, इधर नहीं मिलेगा. Maybe the openings in that particular industry will be less. The hiring processes will last longer. But you will eventually end up in a place that you vibe with, that values you as a designer, and you're not वो imposter syndrome नहीं रहेगा कि यार I am an industrial designer, what am I doing here designing screens, right? So yeah,
Just be at it. Be confident with whatever you...
Be confident in your own work. And I understand, again, as I mentioned before, why people want to switch. Financial reasons being one, reasons of a myriad of different reasons, right? And be my guest, go explore, no problem. But this money and scope wala thing, that gets to me sometimes.
Don't get into it.
I'll maybe be talking to a few juniors, and then they'll tell me they're choosing UX design as a discipline because they want to earn money. And now, if they've made up their mind, you can't really say anything to them. But yeah, that's not the best way to go about this.
Yeah. But most of the times this also happen. No, I've realized that, for example, every other job that you do, every other thing that you do would get monotonous कभी ना कभी. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि हर बार मजा ही आता रहेगा. There is a time when you feel like, okay, I'm a little burnt out, I'm a little tired of this particular thing. Then what people do is that they get confused between the path that, oh, it's a phase and I'm just getting tired, or am I not made for it? And that's when they decide ki maybe I can do something else, maybe I can transition into something else. But that's when they sort of go in the direction ki, that's also one of the points I feel ki bahut log ko hota hai, that they sort of switch and switch kya, they think about switching or they think about transitioning and everything. So how can a person, but since you said that you haven't encountered a person like this, I don't know if you would be able to give an advice on it. But if you can, the question is majorly around how can someone understand that, okay, this is a phase. This is not something that's going to last forever. Like this, whatever you're feeling about a particular job that you're doing, and the other feeling being ki this is not your cup of tea or this is not something that you're liking. How can you differentiate between that?
Okay. So let me put it this way. Exploring a new domain and transitioning to it should be very different for everybody. If you are confusing exploring with, I want to do this, then, you need to talk to somebody who is already in that domain, right? You said that people get frustrated or, they get burnt out by a lot of that monotony of a particular discipline. But then where does that monotony come from? It often comes from doing the same thing again and again, right? Let's say there's this sketching course that I am attending. Now I have to draw 10 pages a day of just lines and circles and rectangles. Now you have to understand where that, again, as I said, where that monotony is coming from. Is it coming from far within ki yaar this is not my this is not my cup of tea, or I'm not cut out for it, as you said? Or is it coming from कि यार बोर हो रहा है, कितने बार करूँ? If it's the other one, if it's the second one, trust me, you will get good at that skill more you practice.
Correct.
Like sketching as a skill, 3D modeling as a skill, rendering as a skill. These all skills are developed through monotony only. They're not essay. These if you see YouTube videos of somebody 3D modeling a car or maybe a time lapse, they have reached there after years of practice, right? It's not like one fine day they woke up and how they show in movies कि एक हफ्ता train किया हो गया, you're a national level boxer now. No, it does not work that way. Put in hours of work, and that's where I think, as I said, to differentiate between monotony through not being involved in the process कि ये मुझे करना ही नहीं है, and monotony through being bored by doing the same thing again and again. So yeah, I think that will help.
Now we are actually heading towards the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
And in the end, I basically ask these 1 or 2 questions to everyone.
Yeah.
So your whole journey from figuring out design to going through college to doing internships, the whole journey from then to now, what are the 3 lessons that you learned along the way? And they can be any lessons, work-based, life-based, anything.
Yeah. One thing that I learned that I was not sure of if this will work out or not in the long term, and then that I have realized now that I've passed out and I have a good portfolio with me, is working with the same people in your group projects is not a bad thing. Okay. Some people, they blow it out of proportion ki if you work with the same people, you and that person or you and those 2 people will always have the same projects. No, it's not compulsory. Let's say, so I worked in interaction design with a couple of my very close friends. So, and I've worked with them for at least one course. We 3 have worked together per semester, okay? And all of those courses are out on Behance. If somebody wants to check it out, they can go and check it out. The way we have presented them are very different. Like, we have tried to highlight, or not tried, we have highlighted what we enjoyed and what we had the most involvement in through those projects. So I don't think your portfolio becomes the same if you work with those people. Ulta, when you get comfortable working with a couple people or one, so when I was in second year, I had gotten this advice from a senior, a very good friend of mine now, that एक person को पकड़ो who you really connect with. Okay, let's say it's a group of 4. Okay, you two always work together. Let's say now, when you are not feeling up to it, when you are not feeling like working, the other person can pick up the slack because you know them so well and they understand. Asking that of complete strangers or acquaintances, not even good friends, is very difficult. Okay, bro, I can't do ideation today, can we shift it to tomorrow? And if that person covers up for you in that particular session, that is a liberty that very few people had in my match, I think. So pick a few people that you're comfortable with, not 3-4 people, 1 or 2 people, 2 people at max, and then work with them for the important courses, like bigger courses that are generally portfolio worthy courses, so called. So yeah, that's one thing that I've learned through this. Not to say that you should not be able to talk to other people and work with them also. Okay, I've learned that too. It is not, you have, let's say, 5 to 6 courses in a semester. It's not compulsory that you have to work with the same person 5 to 6 times, right? maybe 2-3 times you work with them, 2-3 times you experiment with others, right? So you have to have a good balance.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Maybe once more I'll try to reiterate, don't judge yourself by what others are achieving. Don't judge yourself by which companies others are getting into. Because back when you are in college, you are around that atmosphere. वो रोज में Outlook पे जब वो घंटी बजता है, that alert comes from Outlook and you see the names of people selected in minutes when your name is not on it. Your heart sinks. But then that is that is an experience that teaches you how to deal with failure. How to deal with failure in an environment that you will come across that you have failed multiple times in a day. Somebody will ask you कि तूने वो mail देखा?
Yeah, so you go through that again.
You are again and again reminded कि यार मेरा नहीं हुआ. So it's important also to go through that. But yeah, it's also important to keep in mind that eventually if I've done good work, if my work is good, I will land up in a place that is good. And so
Okay, lovely. Really great message. And now the last question, and it's like the question of the season I ask everyone, is what do you think is the yellow in you? What do you think is something that makes you different? Something that makes you stand out, like the color yellow itself?
Okay. Something that makes me different from others. Might come off as self-centered or maybe pompous. But yeah, I do really feel this, that I put myself out there more often than not. I'll go talk to people randomly. I'll, walk into expensive showrooms and talk to salespeople. Whereas I know I don't have a dime in my pocket to afford maybe a 6 lakh rupee watch, but I'll still call that salesman up and I'll say, can I put on this watch? And I'll talk to him about what his favorite watch is.
Yeah.
So yeah, one tidbit was during my leather elective, I'd to take inspiration of something. I'd gone to Moblaw's showroom, in Phoenix, in Pune, and trust me, so there was this glass case in which pen pouches were kept, and I wanted to design a pen, and I called that lady up, and I said, "Can I please look at it?" She said, "Okay, sure." And I picked it up with my bare hands, and I looked back, and she's bringing this tray and putting on gloves in order to show it to me. And I felt so embarrassed. But then, yeah, that's how you learn. Again, as I said, put yourself out there. I like to put myself out there more often than what most people do. And I learn from it. One more thing that recently happened was, I'll hit up a recruiter or a senior designer at a company that I'd like to work at, saying ki I'm in this particular city. If that design office is based in that city, can I come and talk to you? Just I don't mention that I need to be. I'm looking for a job, or maybe okay, could you review my portfolio? Nothing. I'll tell them I like your company's work, and seeing as to how you're a senior design figure there, can I come and talk to you? And I have gotten through to a couple of people like that, and they're very enjoyable conversations because they see a hunger in you, and most of the times you just have to ask. People will tell you their entire life story. People just want to get asked questions. So yeah, that's how it.
Wow, then my podcasting will go for a long.
And I hope it was informative. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we are at the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know it wasn't something that you really,
Yeah, I was not ready for it at first, but I hope I have helped a few people along the way.
Definitely.
And more than that, I think, again, I put myself in a position that I'm not really comfortable with. And I think the next podcast I do, I'll be much more smoother in my explanations and how I can.
But this was also amazing. And I had a lovely time.
Thank you.
See you.